Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Emergency Telephone System Board for Monday, December 16th. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Board Member Brady.
Here.
Board Member Kruger. Here. Board Member Hein.
Yes.
Board Member Vogel.
Here.
Board Member Here. Board Member Lang.
Here.
Board Member McIsaac.
Here.
Board Member Benson.
Here.
Board Member Weeder. Here. Chairperson Argyros.
Here. I entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for December 17th, 2012.
So moved.
Motion by Board Member Hein.
Second.
Second by Board Member Here. Roll call, please.
Board Member Brady.
Yes.
Board Member Kruger.
Abstain.
Board Member Hein.
Yes.
Board Member Vogel.
Yes.
Board Member Here.
Yes.
Board Member Lang.
Yes.
Board Member McIsaac.
Yes.
Board Member Benson.
Yes.
Board Member Weeder.
Yes.
Chairperson Argyros.
Yes. Under new business, resolution number 5. Madam Clerk, want to read it for the record?
Resolution adopting the Village of Wheeling E911 budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2014 and ending December 31st, 2014, and authorizing the expenditure of budget funds from the Emergency Telephone System Fund.
Thank you. Manager Svandelos.
Thank you. Obviously, we are able to answer any questions. This year's budget is for a total of $594,246. That money is directly spent on equipment and related expenses for servicing the 911 center located in the police department.
Great. Questions from the board members?
Just have one.
Board Member Vogel.
Is there an increase coming through January 1st with the state? John, are you aware?
Associated with the
911
cell phone?
cell phone?
Not that I'm aware of, Chief McIsaac, or...
The last I heard, that's still in debate right now, and it wouldn't so much be an increase, but a redistribution of the state portion of the funds.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Got it?
Brady.
Sorry.
How much of this money comes out of our general fund and how much is direct paid by the 911?
$180,000 comes out of the general fund. It shows as an interfund transfer between police and fire into the account, and the remainder of the money comes from surcharge.
And it's going to keep getting worse every year, isn't it?
That is correct, particularly as more and more people transition away from a land-based or hard-based phone system. We're actually seeing diminishing returns on that surcharge. I guess on the opposite side, while we are seeing an increase in cell phone carriers, we get a smaller cut, if you will, of the surcharge because that's controlled by the state, not locally like hardwire. So even though we're picking up more customers, we're getting less of the funds.
And is there any hope on the horizon of getting the cell phones to start paying their share of this?
That's what Trustee Vogel was alluding to, is there is discussions on a statewide level to make some adjustments to that, but I don't think it's ever going to 100% pay for this service.
It's a shame. It's so important. Thank you.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
So moved. Second.
Motion by Board Member Lang, second by Board Member Vogel. Roll call, please.
Board Member Brady.
Yes.
Board Member Kruger.
Yes.
Board Member Hein.
Yes.
Board Member Vogel.
Yes.
Board Member Here.
Yes.
Board Member Lang.
Yes.
Board Member McIsaac.
Yes.
Board Member Benson.
Yes.
Board Member Weeder. Chairperson Argyros.
Yes. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Board Member Here, second by Board Member Brady. Roll call, please.
Board Member Brady.
Yes.
Board Member Kruger.
Yes.
Board Member Hein.
Yes.
Board Member Vogel.
Yes.
Board Member Here.
Yes.
Board Member Lang.
Yes.
Board Member McIsaac.
Yes.
Board Member Benson.
Yes.
Board Member Weeder. Chairperson Argyros.
Yes. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting for Monday, December 16, 2013. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
Trustee Kruger.
Present.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Here.
Trustee Here?
Here.
Trustee Lang?
Here.
President Argyris?
Here. Entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes for November 18, 2013.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Brady,
Second.
second by trustee Hein. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. Changes to the agenda, Mr. Spondelos?
Yes, thank you. I have heard that there has been a request to remove and table item 11C. We would need a motion, a second, and a roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Vogel, second by trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang was first?
Trustee Vogel, second by trustee Lang.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. Citizens' concerns and comments.
Mrs. Schultz? Oh, members of the general public may address the board with concerns or comments regarding relevant issues. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points and should state their name and address into the record.
Thank you.
Okay, Sheila.
Good evening, Mr. President and members of the board. I am here to comment again about the floodplain regulations variation. At the previous meeting, I raised a number of questions regarding the ordinance. I received no response at the time, nor did I expect that, nor in the 2 weeks since. I will not repeat my full statement, but I will repeat my request that you, as elected officials, faithfully fulfill your sworn obligation to protect the health and welfare of the residents and businesses of the Village of Wheeling. The recommendation of staff that was in this week's packet did comment on the points that the village engineer had raised and on which based many of my questions, but I don't feel that they were fully explanatory. And just to mention a few, the development activity cannot be located outside the special flood hazard areas. Why? Why could it not be placed somewhere else? An exceptional hardship would result if the variance were not granted. What hardship or potential hardship is being referred to there? There will be no additional threat to public health, safety, beneficial stream uses and functions, especially the aquatic habitat or creation of a nuisance. This statement assumes that there is no need to follow the proposed Metropolitan Water Reclamation District ratio or to consider future storm events. If you approve this variation, you will weaken the protection of Wheeling residents and businesses, as well as those downstream. Another is there will be no additional public expense for flood protection, lost environmental stream uses and functions, rescue or relief operations, policing or repairs to stream beds and banks, roads, utilities, or other public facilities. This most idealistic and unrealistic situation that is described is only true if you rule out the probability of any future stormwater damages, any flood events, or in addition to that, the residents of the community losing the discount on their flood insurance because of the working with precedent that you will have set, dealing with however many other requests there might be. They also mentioned the William Rogers diversionary channel. Those of us who lived through all those years of work on that know that it was not meant to allow exceptions to stormwater management best practices, but to divert runoff, as its name implies, from Buffalo Creek to the river. I'm confident that Trustee Rogers, if he were here today, would be in complete agreement that this is a misuse of the use of the channel that bears his name. It says that the applicant's circumstances are unique and do not establish a pattern inconsistent with the intent of the NFIP. What are the unique circumstances? These are all questions that are out there, and I think in the spirit of transparency and openness to the community, that some comments, some answers should be given publicly. Please help to restore the leadership position that the village held for so many years concerning stormwater management. It was something that we were very proud of and rightfully proud of, and it should be maintained for many, many reasons. I know the importance of economic development to our community. I understand that totally. However, it must also be weighed against the potential damages to residents and businesses and their property. Thank you. I look forward to hearing your comments when this item is discussed later this evening.
Thank you.
Mr. Hittleman?
Good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Gary Hittleman. I live at 249 North Wolf Road. I was really hoping to join the discussion on the transition of Wolf Road, which is much later tonight. Actually, I'd rather be watching the Bears Plymouth lose. But I have a couple concerns about the project, and I don't know if now's the time to discuss it or mention it or what.
You can mention it now if you like. We'll take record of it.
The state of Illinois wants to get rid of Wolf Road, and I don't blame them. It's falling apart, and I'm sure it's taking a pounding with what's been going on lately, so it's only going to be worse. And my question was, are they going to rebuild it, or are they just going to slap the third lane on there like they had planned initially? Secondly, something you guys can have full control of is burying the power lines. I mean, if it was a necessity, I'd be all for it, but it just seems like the last time that we talked about this, there was $1 million price tag on that, and I frankly don't think anybody should be paying for that. Besides, you can see the power lines from 50 feet away anyhow. And as I understand, if I'm mistaken, you guys can correct me later on, but that's paid for by the entire village of Wheeling, not just the people on Wolf Road. So everybody's got to pay for that $1 million. I'm just not sure if that's what the facts are.
Okay.
And if indeed they are responsible for it, do they know? Are they going to be notified of it? Or is it just on their phone bill or whatever? Thank you.
Okay, we'll bring them up. Thanks, Gary.
Mr. Stylen?
Thank you, Mr. President and trustees, and Merry Christmas to you all. On the agenda tonight, you have an item that discusses sidewalks and appropriating money for the installation of new sidewalks next year. As a 25-year-plus advocate of trying to get new sidewalks installed in the village, it's nice to see that it's finally happening, and I thank you very much for taking on that effort. The only thing that I ask, though, is that I think there's still a little loophole that needs to be addressed. Today, according to our ordinances and staff recommendation, the only time that we can request that a petitioner who might be developing a new piece of property or redeveloping his old piece of property, expanding his business, whatever, the only time we can ask for that petitioner to install a new sidewalk is if he's re-subdividing his property. According to our ordinances, that's the only time. And it seems to me that we don't have very much property left in the village that is capable of being subdivided. And hopefully there's going to be a continued amount of new development in town. And I think maybe it's time to take a look and see when and if we might be able to change the ordinance to request future petitioners to install sidewalks on their property. I don't know what the criteria should be, but I think we need something more than subdivision. We've asked petitioners in the past, and some volunteer to install new sidewalks, some don't, some get conditions as part of special uses, whatever. And I think we just need a more consistent policy to state we're going to do this under these circumstances and we're not going to do it for others. So I hope you take that into consideration over time, and thank you very much, and hopefully we'll have a great new year.
I will add to that. Maybe, Mr. Ferrillo, you can discuss it with our planners and stuff like that at an upcoming Plan Commission meeting and see what avenues they can take other than just the subdivisions and come up with some answers for that. Because it has been an ongoing thing with the Plan Commission, even in the days when I was on it. Who can you ask? Who can you not ask? Let's get it on the books and do it fairly. Would you? Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Next.
Ms. Lepantos?
Good evening, Mr. President, trustees. Over the past 2 years, our village has been hit with flooding, different areas, different subdivisions, a lot of heartache for a lot of people and a lot of expense. This evening before you is a request for variation on compensatory storage, water storage. Before you grant this variation, please consider what Mrs. Schultz just so eloquently posed, the question she so eloquently posed. What effect will this variation have on those residents downstream? Is this really a necessity? We have talked about different ways to solve the flooding problem, including not too long ago, fees for stormwater management that the entire village would pay. But we are about to grant a builder a variation that could cause more flooding. We don't know for sure. And if it does cause flooding, what are we going to say? Oops, we were wrong, we'll all pay for it? That's not the way to do it. We have codes, we have ordinances. They should be followed by everybody. Variation should not be given out just to make life easier for someone. What is the hardship? Why can't this particular builder put in the storage that everyone else has been required to do? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
No, that's it, Mr. President.
Okay. Staff reports, Chief McIsaac.
2 quick items for the board. The first one is the Cook County Homeland Security Office is in the process of working with 115 communities, of which Wheeling is one of them, to develop a countywide hazard mitigation program. This will allow us access going forward to various disaster relief funds and funds for projects within the county that would further avoid disaster damage. As part of that process, they need input from the citizens out there. And on our webpage, we have added a link to the Cook County Department of Homeland Security. If you click on that link, it will take you to a survey that is being tabulated by the county, which will be used as part of the planning process using citizen input on the plan. It is important that our citizens get the opportunity to have input in that plan because it will have impacts on them and, like I said, will hopefully eventually benefit the village through receipt of federal monies in the future. So I'd like to encourage everybody to go to the village website. It's a nice big logo, it says Cook County Homeland Security, has an eagle on it right in the middle of the page. Click on it. The entire survey takes approximately 5 minutes or less to take. It's completely confidential, and it will greatly benefit not only the county, but hopefully the village long term. Second item I'd like to mention is we've had a number of power outages in the last several weeks in the community. Unfortunately, those power outages seem to have affected the same people a number of times. It's strictly a coincidence. One was caused by an equipment fault. One was caused by a construction incident hitting a cable. The third one is being investigated as we speak. I do want the board to know that that is being looked at by Commonwealth Edison. There is a meeting later on this week with the manager and myself, meeting with Commonwealth Edison to review the status of electric service in the village. but I also wanted to take this opportunity to remind our citizens of the critical nature it is that when they lose power, not to call 911. The village does not have the ability in itself to turn the power back on. Instead, it's more important that they call Commonwealth Edison directly at 1-800-EDISON-1. By doing so, it creates a work ticket, and the way the system works, particularly in regional outages such as storms, the more calls that are received, the higher the priority it becomes for Commonwealth Edison. By calling the village, it does not accomplish that task and instead ties up the 911 system. So again, I want to emphasize to our residents that if you lose power, please, please contact Commonwealth Edison and log a work ticket. It's very, very important to do that. There's also information on the village webpage that talks about the power outage program for Commonwealth Edison. It's under the fire department web portion, and there's a entire sheet about how to handle winter storms, summer storms, as well as information about ComEd's power outage program and how it works. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Before I go to Director Melantefe, I just want to thank your staff, the Chamber, for a really nice taste of Wheeling on Thursday night. And maybe you can piggyback on that a little bit and give us some report on how it really came out, the numbers in it.
Thank you, President Argyros. I'm happy to do so. The Taste of the Town was a tremendous success. The Westin Hotel provided a tremendous venue for the approximate 600 attendees. The Wheeling Prospect Heights Chamber of Commerce event raised approximately $20,000. Our goal was $20,000 or $15,000 in revenue, and I'd like to thank the entire Taste of the Town Planning Committee, including Susan Dennison, our chairperson, and the Westin Hotel itself, all the celebrity chefs, and the 20 participating restaurants. Some of the great names in Wheeling, Buca de Beppo, Golden Chef, Benihana, Twin Peaks, Cooper's Hawk, Bob Chin's, Wapagetti's, and Ram, and Serenello's. But I also wanted to acknowledge the tremendous support that we received from the Korean Cultural Center. They sold over 200 tickets for the event, and $5 from every ticket went towards their mentoring and scholarship fund. And I'd also like to thank all of the village board members that attended and demonstrated their support for this event. It's just going to get better every year. We've really put a great team together, and we're looking forward to a great event next year. We've really built upon what used to be known as putting on the Ritz, and all the reviews that I received were great. Everyone seemed to really enjoy themselves. It had kind of a holiday spirit to it, and the Westin Hotel just did a terrific job for us. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Welcome.
Staff, you want to continue with just a quick update with the town center? I know a lot of people have been asking.
Sure. Economic development staff's been focusing on Wheeling Town Center, which is a master plan, transit-oriented, mixed-use development adjacent to the municipal campus here and adjacent to the metro station. The project will create a vibrant downtown. It will envision approximately 100,000 square feet of retail space and 300 luxury apartment units situated adjacent to the metro station, Heritage Park, the Aquatic Center, the municipal campus, and the retail component will be anchored by Flick's Brewhouse, which is a first-run dinner theater concept and restaurant, along with Kiefer's Restaurant and other signature restaurants, specialty retailers, fast casual restaurants and services. We've been working with the developer Urban R2 and Marquette Companies in reviewing the redevelopment agreement, which we spent some time on. We finalized a non-binding term sheet in August, and we expect to finalize this agreement, break ground in late 2014, and have a grand opening in late 2015. We are working with all the various stakeholders. When you're creating a downtown, there's going to be some bumps in the road. There's going to be a lot of compromise, but we are trying to ensure the highest quality development for the village of Wheeling and a downtown that Wheeling can be proud of. So we're going to be looking forward to 2014. We're really encouraged with what we're seeing. So thank you very much, President Argyros.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? No? Consent agenda, Madam Clerk?
Consent agenda, all items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or a citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items.
Thank you. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Lang,
Second.
second by trustee Hare. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. Item 13A.
13A, ordinance amending the Village of Wheeling annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2013 and ending December 31st, 2013.
Is that right?
Is that
Should be
right?
14.
No, it's
Yep.
13.
Is it 13?
This year.
Is it 13? Okay.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say this is an amendment for the 2013 budget. It's not the ordinance for the 2014 budget. And the reason that this is on the agenda is because the village board is terminating the town center TIF at the end of December. And we anticipate at that time that we will have a deficit in that TIF fund of over $1,100,000. And in order to make up that deficit, we need to transfer funds from the Crossroads TIF to the town center TIF so that the general fund doesn't end up paying that cost.
Yeah. Questions?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Vogel,
Second.
second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. 13B.
Okay. Do you want me to read them all at one time or open
Yeah,
the
why not?
public hearing first?
Open the public hearing. Then we'll do ordinances separate.
Okay, public hearing open at 6:57.
I'm going to go right to Mr. Furlow.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the public hearing on the 2013 tax levy that you will consider momentarily. The tax levy is made up of a general fund levy, levies for the police and fire pension fund, and levies for our debt service. The increase in that total levy represents an increase of 5% over last year's amount of levy extended by the county. When you look at our general corporate levy and just our pension levies, there's actually a decrease. But in any event, this is a public hearing, an opportunity for the public to present comments to the board regarding the proposed tax levy ordinance.
Okay, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the audience wish to speak? Like the records show that nobody from the audience wishes to speak. Anybody from the board? Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Hare, second by trustee Vogel. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. 13B2.
13B2, ordinance authorizing the levy and collection of taxes for the corporate and municipal purpose of the Village of Wheeling for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2013 and ending December 31st, 2013.
Director Monishing.
Thank you. As directed by the board, the property tax levy for the 2013 tax year reflects a 5% increase in the levy over 2012, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have about that.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. 13B3.
Ordinance abating the 2013 tax levy requirements for the general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2007.
Thank you. Director Monishing.
Thank you. I'll try to answer all of these abatement, or at least explain all of these abatement ordinances at the same time. When the village issues bonds, the village board approves a bond ordinance which gets filed with both counties. Those counties will automatically levy those taxes in order to pay the debt service on those bonds unless the village board abates those levies. And the reason why we abate those levies is because we have funds available in other funds of the village, the water and sewer fund, the TIF funds, and the capital projects funds that can pay for those levies, so there's no need to actually extend those taxes to the taxpayers, and that's why you have a series of abatement ordinances on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. Question? Motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Vogel,
Second.
second by trustee Kruger. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. 13B4.
Ordinance abating the 2013 tax levy requirements for the general obligation corporate purpose bonds, Series 2008.
Thank you. Questions? Motion?
So moved.
Motion trustee Heer, second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Thank you. Yes. 13B5.
Ordinance abating the 2013 tax levy requirements for the general obligation refunding bonds, Series 2011.
Questions from the board?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. 13B6.
Ordinance abating the 2013 tax levy requirements for the general obligation sales tax refunding bonds, Series 2012A.
Questions? Motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Brady.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. 13B7.
Ordinance abating the 2013 tax levy requirements for the general obligation water system bonds, Series 2012B.
Thank you. Questions? Motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Heer.
Second.
Second by trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. And I'd just like to take a second here to thank staff, thank this board for the numerous hours of going over the budget and working with your department heads. And I think we got a good, balanced project here, budget here that we can all be proud of every upcoming year. So thank you. Okay, 13C.
Ordinance adopting the Village of Wheeling annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2014 and ending December 31st, 2014.
Thank you. Director Monishing.
Thank you. As discussed in November and numerous times since then, the budget for 2014 reflects total expenditures of $71,163,234 and funds all village operations. If there are any questions that the board has, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Any questions from the board? Trustee Kruger?
Yes, I have a question. Mike, this may not be for you, but in your legislative cover memo, third paragraph in the description, you mention that staff has added some funds into the Lake Cook Milwaukee TIF fund for the Meadow Lane Compensatory Storage Project. Perhaps someone could explain that project to me.
Mr. Janik?
Sure. I can do that, Mike. That project was added at Community Development's request to Michael because we own, the village owns a piece of property on Meadow Lane. It's approximately 5.5 acres or 5.8 acres in size. And the board has reviewed and approved engineering drawings or the production of engineering drawings for the use of that property for a compensatory storage basin. Because the fact that we have drawings mostly done and because of certain regulations that are going to take place possibly in 2014, it was our request that that project and that property be put on the schedule for work in 2014. Basically, it's a property it's a vacant property, partially treed, and the plans are for a compensatory storage basin that will hold approximately 5.7 acres of water.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? So that's another proactive approach that our staff is taking regarding looking for spots of land throughout our community for comp storage for the future.
That will be comp storage that can be used or not used by whoever. But it will, if constructed, it will hold a sizable amount of water. Yes.
Thank you. Anybody else? Motion?
Just a quick comment on the budget.
Sure.
And going through it and listening to the liaisons talk and give their reports, which is very appreciative that we went to that this year because I learned a lot more about the budget. I know there was a lot of constraint on the part of the department heads, and they took into consideration that we're still not quite out of the economic slump we've been in. So I just want to pass my appreciation on to them for that. I know we're understaffed in some areas probably, and probably could use a few more policemen out on the street and a few more firemen, but they were realistic with our expectations and held to what we could handle this year. So just say I want to appreciate that. Thank all of them.
Thanks, Trustee Vogel. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Vogel.
Second.
Second by Trustee Lang. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. 13D.
Resolution adopting the Community Development Department Capital Improvement Plan for the 5-year period of fiscal year 2014 through 2018.
Thank you. Director Janik.
There's a request by the village for the board to approve the CIP plan 2014 through 2018.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Question.
Trustee Brady?
You know, there has been an epidemic of water main breaks this past 2 or 3 weeks. Every time I talk to somebody at Public Works, they're all out fixing broken pipes. And I know we have a plan in process on the CIP about, eventually being able to replace all these water mains so that we can kind of control this and keep up with it. But I'm wondering if maybe you shouldn't take a look at and talk with each other. Why we shouldn't be having that many breaks this time of year because the frost isn't even down to the water main level. And it just seems like I know we have water main breaks, but how many have we had, Mr. Stavros, this past few weeks?
Currently, in the last 2 weeks, we've had 9 breaks, water main breaks, and we've had 1 sewer discharge, pressure break. That's in relationship to Arlington Heights, who's had 10 since Thursday. Mount Prospect's had 10 in the last 10 days. Northbrook's had 9. It's the weather conditions. The ground is, this time of year when the ground starts to freeze like this, we've had a sudden severe freeze, the ground starts to shift.
Yeah.
It shifts on top, and when it shifts on top, it does shift on the bottom and puts stress. We haven't had blowholes. We've been having beam breaks, and we have beam breaks. That means that it's the shifting of the earth that beneath the main that is causing the main to snap. It's not a blowhole. In the summertime, when our breaks are typically blowholes, it's because of deterioration of the main, and we actually have a hole in the main. These are breaks. They're snapping. And it's because of the shifting of the ground.
Well, yeah, the frost probably what's happening is lifting the hydrants and kind of putting different stresses on it.
Well,
But I'm just wondering if this is the case and these pipes are getting that bad, or is this just something because of this time of year? Because I don't remember at any one instance where we've had this many breaks, in the sub-zero weather when it's been cold for many weeks. Yes, you will have a lot of breaks, but
yeah, it's some years it's like that. This is a typical year with in this type of weather. when we had the drought 2 years ago, Arlington Heights had 387 water main breaks that summer because of the drought. Last year, they only had 190 water main breaks. It all has to do with the earth, or the ground, and the moisture in it, and how it shifts.
Are we still using iron for our new water mains, or are we going to PVC yet?
We've transferred over to PVC this last June. Last two projects we put in as plastic.
Do you feel that a new main would kind of more or less hold up a little bit better than these old cast iron pipes are? If the program got increased. What I'm saying is, I'm wondering if this is because these breaks aren't cheap. Certainly not. It'd be a heck of a lot easier if we could prevent them by increasing our productivity on replacing them, other than trying to fix them and then have to go back later on under the program and dig them up and fix them again. I'm wondering if we shouldn't take a look at the CIP and see, well, is there a way we can increase the amount of water mains we replace every year and maybe hold back on something else that maybe isn't so troublesome?
It's the cast iron. Cast iron means in some areas they're holding up, if the soil conditions are good, they're holding up better than the ductile iron. And ductile iron is a newer material.
Yeah.
The old part of town, if we don't have a lot of electrolysis out there, we don't have blowholes in there, that cast iron in the old part of town is fine. We don't have breaks on them.
It's all sand.
We don't have any blowholes on them. Ductile iron, we've got stuff that was put in the ground in the 80s. It's snapping. So, I mean...
Trustee Brady, we actually have one of the most aggressive water main replacement programs in the area.
I know. I reviewed it, and it is. I was just wondering, and maybe I really wasn't paying attention, but it just seemed like it was an excessive amount of water main breaks this past few weeks. I know they're constant, they're always there, but it just seemed like we're shifting guys back and forth and running people here to try to maintain enough crews to plug the leaks.
Sure, it's been very stressful on the department. They've done a very good job of managing their time and making sure that the guys are working safely and still getting the job done.
All right. Oh, okay then.
Well, I'm glad to see that we have the replacement across the street here, because I'm sure, based on last year's history, our guys would have been out there every day this week.
That would have been one of the areas that would have blown hard, I'm sure.
But for the record, there's over $4 million in this budget for total replacement, and I bet you we spent every bit of probably $4 million in the last 3-4 years anyway in water replacement throughout the community.
Yeah,
so it is a program.
over the last 10 years,
a lot.
We've averaged in the last 10 years over $1.5 million a year in water main replacement.
Right.
That's a lot of water main. Buffalo Grove is yet to do any hardly, and Arlington is just starting to do some.
Right.
And they're taking bonds out to do like $5 to $10 million at a crack because they're so far behind in the replacement.
Right.
We're far ahead of the rest of them.
Right.
This board has been very proactive in assessing, and that's actually the next item on the agenda, in assessing the appropriate water fees in order to pay for a proactive program like the one that we have. So it's very much us being progressive and recognizing this problem and staying with it every year with an increase to the water rate.
Motion approved, Mr. President.
I just got one comment before I accept your motion. I'm glad to see a new line item on the CIP, and I want to thank Mr. Stavros, Mr. Janik, Mr. Svandilis, and along with you, Trustee Brady, for initiating this. We finally, in the history of this village, have something in the CIP called the Stormwater Management Plan, and we've allocated dollars into the upcoming budget for that to look at a village-wide stormwater plan and how to take care of our stormwater problems in this community. So I want to thank you, gentlemen, for that, along with other members of the staff, to taking the time in the last 6 months and doing that and actually putting it into a budget item that we're actually aggressively going through. And I'll reflect to you later, Trustee Brady, maybe you can give us an update on where we're at on that under concerns and comments with the board. But I do want to thank you for that, and I'm glad to see it in the budget after we talked about it. So I'll accept Trustee Brady's motion, and second by?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Jarvis?
Yes, thank you. Okay. 13E?
E, ordinance amending Title 13 Water and Sewers of the Wheeling Municipal Code, Water and Sewer Fees.
Thank you. Director Monishing.
Thank you, Mr. President. As discussed with the village board back in November at the budget workshop, tonight there's an ordinance on the agenda that would increase the water and sewer rates for 2014 by 2.43%. It would have been 2.5%, but for rounding. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about that.
Questions from the board? And just for the record, that is the lowest increase since about 7 years ago.
Several years, right?
Yes, thank you. Motion?
So moved.
Motion by trustee Kruger.
Second?
Second by trustee Hein, I'm sorry. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, thank you. 13F.
13F, ordinance amending Title 19, Chapter 9.42 of the Village Code relating to the automated traffic law enforcement system for overtaking and passing school buses.
Thank you. Chief Benson.
Thank you, President Argyros. Effective January 1st, 2014, Public Act 97-556 allows for municipalities and school districts to enter into an agreement with a vendor for the placement of cameras on school buses for the purpose of automated enforcement of school bus arm violations. I learned from the Prospect Heights Police Department that Prospect Heights School District 23 has entered into such an agreement, and as such, there are several District 23 bus stops in the Village of Wheeling. The Village of Wheeling currently has an agreement for our red light photo enforcement with Red Speed Illinois, who is the same vendor as Prospect Heights. The purpose of this ordinance is to join in on the same program and monitor the violations for the District 23 school buses that have stops in the Village of Wheeling. If the same processes will be in place as a red light camera photo enforcement as far as reviewing to ensure the violation and the adjudication process for people that want to contest it. If the program is successful, I will be reaching out to the school districts in Wheeling 21 and 214 for the bus stops in the Village of Wheeling to expand the program.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Mr. President,
Trustee Heer.
I just want to compliment you on being very proactive, and I look forward to hopefully 21 and 214 also getting on board.
Thank you. Trustee Brady, do you have something?
Are the cameras mounted on the bus?
Cameras are mounted on the bus, and similar to the red light photo enforcement pursuant to the Public Act, the buses that have this photo enforcement are required to have signs warning such.
Okay, good.
So moved, if no one else has any
I
questions.
had just one question.
Trustee Vogel.
The fact that we're splitting with the school district 50-50, okay, after the red, whatever that company, Red
Yes.
Speed gets theirs, is there any way they'll split the costs?
Split the cost of the adjudication
Right.
in the law is very specific on the division of the fine revenue. So I could look into that. I don't believe that we can adjust the split that the law is placed in effect.
All right, thanks.
Trustee Lang.
Thanks. Does this happen a lot in your?
What happens is the school bus drivers are advised to notify the police department of school bus arm violations, and we do get them periodically. They're very difficult to enforce because it would require the school bus driver to take a day off of work to go to court to testify because the police officer didn't witness it. So I would say it's fair to say that the violations do occur, probably more than we're notified because of the resistance to follow through with the prosecution of the traffic violation. We haven't conducted a study to see how many of the violations occur on a regular basis, but in my opinion, one is too many, and this program is of no cost to the Village of Wheeling since we already have the adjudication and review process in place.
Thank you.
Motion by Trustee Heer.
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Lang. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, thank you.
If I may, President Argyros, I'd just like to echo the comments of Trustee here. This program was brought to me by Chief Benson, and it really is a proactive measure that's not happening anywhere else in the state. Not only is it a safety issue, but it's an assistance to those that have to enforce the law. And it's because of Chief Benson's relationship with others in the industry and his reputation that we were able to secure a program like this and have it be tested through the Village of Wheeling. And it's, I think, beneficial to all involved. So I'd just like to piggyback Trustee Here's comments and say that publicly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
13G, two ordinances.
Related to religious assembly at 380 West Palatine Road, Ordinance G1, ordinance granting variation from Title 19 zoning of the Wheeling Municipal Code to reduce the required building and parking setbacks at 380 West Palatine Road, docket number 2013-24A.
Read the other ones.
Okay, 2 is ordinance granting a special use site plan and appearance approval to establish a religious assembly at 380 West Palatine Road, docket number 2013-24B.
Thank you. Director Janik?
Thank you.
Petitioners here by the chance? Are the petitioners here for the church? Did they know to be here, Mark?
They did. Could be a problem with the weather, I'm not sure.
It's the wishes of the board. You want to continue, or you want the petitioners here?
I think we can continue on this one.
Okay. Director Janik.
Thank you. This is a request for use of a vacant office building south of Palatine Road. The religious assembly that we're talking about currently resides in a building just north of Dundee Road on Northgate Parkway. That property is under contract with the apartment developer that recently received an approval from the village. This building is approximately 18,000 square feet in size. The religious assembly would like to occupy it. There are numerous items that they would be improving it, relative to this property, including the parking lot, landscaping, as well as some of the interior.
Questions? Trustee Lang?
Well, the petitioner isn't here, but normally I wouldn't like to see
me either, but anyway.
land like this go, or a building like this go off the tax rolls. But in the case here, this church had moved from a location that was sort of impeding a larger development, and actually, I think in the long run has done us a favor by making this move. So I'm all for it, and it looks like they're doing very nice improvements to the building. And being on the corner like that, I think it's a pretty good location as well.
Anybody else?
Question?
Trustee Brady?
I would prefer the petitioner to be here. I mean, this is his business. He should be here. If he couldn't make it, a phone call would have sufficed. In the meantime, going and reading through the findings and facts and everything related to this docket, both the village planner and the community director of community development recommended we table this because there's a property line issue on the plans that have to be resolved before, and they're asking for it to be tabled until that is resolved.
Trustee Janik? Director Janik?
I believe that we think that the property line issue, Trustee Brady, can be worked out. I don't believe, I believe that if the village board went forward and voted on this, that the property line issue would have to be dealt with before they would buy this property.
Well, both of you concurred that we should table it. And in light of the fact that they're not here, that's a double reason why we should table it. I'd like to make that motion.
Well, what the recommendation is that the plan should be revised to reflect the accurate location of the property line. We believe that there's just a miscommunication between the state of Illinois, which has the right of way, and its property owner. It's the same with the other variations associated with this use. The variations that they request are existing variations as to where the building is located. Property lines have changed due to the right of way being taken by the state of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
So we concur that the correct property line should be located on the plans before they go forward with their purchase of the property. But I believe that this is just a miscommunication between the state of Illinois and the property owner.
I was just reading, like I say, the village planner's recommendation said the village planner suggests that the special use review be delayed in order for the petitioner to revise the plans to reflect accurate location of the property lines. The portion of the property was taken for roadway purposes, and the petitioner has proposed improvements in what is now a street right-of-way. Following submittals of the revised plans, staff has no additional concerns. And then you mentioned that you concur with the recommendation. I don't know, I just...
Well, there seems to be some questions that need to be answered. There is a motion on the table for a table. I entertain a second.
Second?
Second by Trustee Hein. Roll call.
Ken first.
And this is for both ordinance 1 and 2,
Right.
G1 and 2.
Right. Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, thank you. 13I, 2 ordinances.
13H.
Oh, sorry. H. Got it.
Ordinance of variation from Title 22 floodplain regulations of the Wheeling Municipal Code relating to the compensatory storage ratio vacant parcels Lot 2 of Prairie Preserve subdivision in 7.4 acres on Meadow Lane, west of Prairie Park condominiums, docket number 2013-26.
Thank you, Director Janik.
Thank you. This is a request by property owners, a property owner in the village that has 2 parcels of property. One is the 17 acres located at the southwest corner of Milwaukee Avenue and Lake Cook Road, and the other is a 7.4 acre parcel that is directly west of the existing Prairie Park development. The 17 acres as shown on the aerial here is to the north, and the 7.4 acre property, which is a square configuration, is to the south there. The request is for a variance to the existing village compensatory storage requirement for development, which is at 1.5 to 1. That would be if 1 acre foot or 1 acre was a volume was filled by a developer, 1.5 acre feet would be required to be provided as a result of that. This variation would be from the 1.5 to 1 to 1 to 1. So they would have to replace whatever they would fill, and a volume would be taken away. In the floodplain, they would have to replace it on an equal basis instead of the 1.5. This request, as far as I know, has not been requested by the board or been requested of the board previously. There were those residents came before the board earlier tonight and was discussing some of the cons relative to a variation such as this. There is a report that was provided to you, or some opinions by community development, including the village engineer who is here tonight. Currently, for instance, Cook County, which is the MWRD, Metropolitan Water District, on a piece of property like this, they would not require, as far as I know, and the village engineer is here to back this up if I'm wrong. But right now, the MWRD would not require compensatory storage. Lake County, if this was in Lake County, we're very close to Lake County, this property at least, they would require a 1 to 1. So the village code is very stringent relative to this requirement. But in fact, a 1 to 1 variation would not be a strange request relative to other, say, county requirements. In this particular case, and any case where there involves a vacant piece of property, runoff from a property like this property is almost entirely in the floodplain, both these properties. Runoff from properties like this is what we would call unrestricted. In other words, water that would land on this property today, say there was a 5-inch rain or a serious rain event, water would flow off at the speed it could leave the property. What the petitioner is requesting is a variation to our code, but in fact, he would build the basin for the compensatory storage. That basin would then flow into the diversionary channel, but it would be restricted. It would be, there'd be a pipe, and it's called the restrictor pipe. The water could only leave at a certain speed. Relative to downstream, this particular location, and the petitioner can provide answers to any of your questions as well, of course. This property is located in a location in the village where there really is nothing village resident-wise downstream, or very limited number of residents downstream from here. The diversionary channel flows directly east, goes past Prairie Park, goes past the Weston, and then delivers the water into the Des Plaines River. That water does flow downstream the length of the village. There are some residents that live along the Des Plaines River, but very few. So relative to our staff report and relative to the possibility of negative impact to village residents, generally speaking, I think engineering-wise, it would be agreed that any water that would leave this property, even with the variation, would not be affecting village residents to a great extent.
Thank you. Questions?
One question. Mr. Jennings, this won't put us in any bad light as far as these other agencies are concerned if we do a one-to-one. In other words, these are our rules, not MWRD's or Corps of Engineers or anybody else involved in the floodwater, right?
That's correct. One of the first things that we did was check with other agencies, FEMA as well as the IDNR. The IDNR was the agency in the state of Illinois that was basically in charge and owns, were paid for the most part, the diversionary channel itself. We check with them. We check with the FEMA representative that reviews our CRS as well as our adherence to the National Flood Improvement Program. Both of those gentlemen indicated to us that a variation like this, particularly since it was the first one that was, if in fact it was approved, it would not affect our rating.
Very good.
Which is currently a 7.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger?
My concerns, and I think staff knows this, that since this has been on the agenda on the 2nd and then was removed, and 2 weeks later it's before us, I have labored quite a bit over this discussion. And ultimately I've concluded that it's based on my own personal principles. I live the exact polar opposite of where the Prairie Park and where this property is from there, and I don't have the luxury of living in a TIF district, so there really is no relief for the flooding that I and my neighbors and neighborhood downstream and on my street have suffered. Certainly, and over the 50 years that I've been there, done plenty of research, and I believe that some of the water that I still experience today is as a result of perhaps poor compensatory storage, detention, retention planning by previous developers and boards upstream from me. I will say that in the last 10 years, this village has been, I would have to say, remarkable in their attention to stormwater and how it affects this entire community. But I think in good conscience, I would not be able to support a variance that has to do with stormwater, because I'm very sensitive to the issue. And that's really all I wanted to share.
Thank you. Anybody else? Trustee Lang?
Thanks. Have we granted a one-to-one at all in the village in the past? Or is this like the first?
I believe this is the first variation to this particular regulation in our code.
What about some of the surrounding, you said MWRD wouldn't even require compensatory storage here. What do you mean by that?
What I meant was that if this property was, say, unincorporated, and somebody wanted to fill in the floodplain, I don't believe that they would be requiring stormwater or compensatory storage. They wouldn't require compensatory storage.
Okay. And then some of the surrounding areas, at least in that area of the village, Lake County has a one-to-one.
That's correct.
And is there any flow over from Lake County at all? You got
to this property?
Yeah, you got Lake Cook Road in the way, but is there any?
This property does not have any flow toward Lake County.
Okay. And no, I mean from Lake County.
Well, there's certainly, the Des Plaines River is a major conduit for stormwater from Lake County, depending on where you are in Lake County. But if there's a lot of rain, say in Gurnee, Lincolnshire, places that do not have stormwater management, that don't have comp storage, most of that flows directly to the Des Plaines, and that's what creates flood problems on the Des Plaines River.
Okay. And then the last question, you mentioned that restrictor that would be going on the diversionary channel. If you had a 5-inch rain, how much water would go in to that channel?
Well, it's hard for me to tell you how much rain will go in. The photograph on your screen and above shows what happened during the April rain. The basin for this compensatory storage had been dug already, and it filled with water. Now that water took approximately 48 hours to drain into the diversionary channel, maybe more than that, maybe it was 3 days. If that basin hadn't been there, the water would have flown directly into the diversionary channel, wherever it could flow, unrestricted, and would have been gone within a few hours. This way, it's restricted so that it flows over a long period of time.
Sure. And I'm glad you put this picture up because it does show that the diversionary channel is quite full at this point.
That's correct.
And is that's not typical of what the channel is like. That is a unique situation, that April rain.
Unique situation, but it happens.
Okay. And this wasn't, I know there was some restriction on the channel itself. There wasn't any blockage or anything like that back then to cause this to be quite full.
There were a couple spots that had, anytime there's a major rain event, there's always going to be, the water will always pick up debris, and that's just unavoidable. So the backup of that water at that particular time when this photograph was taken, I'm sure there were some impediments to water. That's one thing that the village is, try to do more often is keep on all of our water courses to have the possibility of debris catching or clogging a pipe or clogging a grate or wherever it might be. We try to be on that all the time, but on a major rain event, we can't be everywhere at once.
And then I do have one more question, sorry. Usually the Des Plaines River backs up from the Buffalo Creek by the airport and backs up towards that way. There's no chance that it backs up on the diversionary channel at all, right? Or
depending on how high the river gets, any water course that flows into another one, if the ultimate water course gets high enough, it will impede water from going into it. It doesn't happen very often, but there is a possibility that does happen. The diversionary channel from downstream from where this is, it goes right by the north side of the Weston. It's a very deep channel right there. You've probably seen it when you've gone in the parking lot there to maybe a restaurant there. There is a lot of capacity in that particular channel, but it is possible for it to back up. There are flap gates at Milwaukee Avenue that will deny the water from flowing back up the channel, but it also denies the water from flowing from the diversionary channel toward the Des Plaines.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Trustee Green.
If you look at this picture, you can see out to the north of Lake Cook Road, that whole Chevy Chase is flooded too, as well as out to the west. I know we're going to do the stormwater study. Why can't we do this area first? I'm all for residential and commercial development, but there's a lot of what ifs that have even coming from you, Mr. Janik. What if? And then you say, well, it might not happen, or it could happen, or it could do this. I share some concerns that once we do this, is it going to be for the best benefit of for Wheeling? I don't know. But then, like we said earlier, is there a need right now to move this that quickly, or can we kind of study this area and come back to it in a relatively short period of time to have those guarantees that it's not going to impact other areas of the community downstream. Because there's no guarantees with this one next to us either, and we've talked about this, and I was here when we approved that one. This is going to have minimal effect on the neighborhoods around here. I mean, it's a nice-looking park facility, but it's going to flood.
I think it's going to have more effect than you think, just because of the nature of the amount of capacity that Heritage Park has. This location, as I mentioned, there really is downstream from the location we're talking about tonight. There really aren't any residences. There is the Weston. It's commercial property. If this was, say, in the middle of town, and it went by a lot of neighborhoods, I think there'd be a lot, maybe more time or more reason to study it. But strictly from knowing where this water flows and where it flows from this location to, and what's in between those two, in between Des Plaines River and this location, it's our opinion that there's very little negative effect that would take place.
Mr. President?
Thank you.
Trustee Brady?
Is there any overland feeds into this piece of property, watersheds into this piece of property, or is it just handling its own water?
Generally speaking, it's handling its own water. There is to the west of this property, there's approximately 30 acres that's owned by the Park District. The flow from the pond that's west of here flows to the north. There's an opening. One reason why Chevy Chase has that much water in it. The pond itself flows north. The pond itself is fed from the south. So generally speaking, hydraulically, the 17 acres that in this particular photograph is there is some water probably that flows from the 30 acres onto the 17, but generally speaking, it's a property unto itself.
So in essence, if there was a problem, it'd be on that property only.
The watershed is relatively limited for this property.
And seeing that it doesn't let out into any other place in the village of Wheeling, it's an isolated incident almost. I don't see why this couldn't work one-to-one.
But if it flows into the river, it then becomes a problem downstream. And that's the issue.
Well, downstream already taken care of.
Yeah.
Yes
Levy
and no.
37 and
Yes and no, because this thing isn't even built. There's a lot of what-ifs on this property. That's what I'm saying. I mean, you guys are advocates for the stormwater study, and I just want to say, let's do it right for our town. That's all I'm saying. And then you're going to sit back here in 2 seconds when we're done with this, and you're going to say, now I'm going to talk about stormwater, and this is what we want to allocate all this money for to do this and this and this. But yet we have a piece of property right in front of us. Maybe it was not put on the right spot on the agenda. I don't know. But there have been no answers to the questions that were posed. There's a lot of what-ifs.
Well, in all honesty, there are no what-ifs on this piece of property.
I don't know
that we're talking about, the thing that throws through here, we're taking all the water from northwest of here. All that water is coming through town. We've got no way to control it coming into town. This isn't taking anything from anybody else except its own water and putting it directly into the Des Plaines River without Wheeling even being involved in it. It's not apples for apples.
I want to believe you on that. I really do. But I want to hear it from the people that are in that field that are doing this work. I want to hear it from the professionals that have studied this stuff and said, this is how we're going to mitigate flooding issues for these towns. That's all I'm saying.
Trustee Hein?
Thank you. We're all very concerned about stormwater management in this community, and we have been for many, many years. One of the things that we have to take in consideration is that this particular area that we're looking at in its entirety is probably the most sought-after piece of property in our village. Lake Cook Road is a corridor for commerce, and it's been that way for many, many years. I think that they have done an excellent job in proving the fact that they can hold their own stormwater, and they can release it at a reliable rate where it's not going to be putting anybody in harm's way. And I think it behooves us as a community to look at that and to make past judgment on this particular piece of property. If they were coming before this board and they didn't do their homework and they didn't plan to have a good quality piece of engineering, I would say no, this project should not be built. But I'm looking forward to this whole entire area being a viable engine to the commerce of this community. And we have to take in consideration that anything can be done today with proper engineering. And these folks have been on that Prairie Park area there for a long time, and they've done a substantial job in been holding their own water. They've taken that responsibility. They're not passing it on to anybody else. And I think that we should be looking at it as a good piece of engineering that is a benefit to this entire community. And if it was not a good piece of engineering, I would be the first one to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you. I got a couple questions to Mr. Janik. You made reference that the 1 to 1.5 is a village ordinance that was created how long ago? In Title 22, do you know offhand?
Approximately 20, 25 years ago.
And it's not a requirement MWRD?
No.
And I've done some research too, and the neighboring communities around here are pretty much follow the 1 to 1 ratio that I've seen.
Yes.
And based on your amendment to the capital improvements project on taking village-owned land for future comp storage is also a proactive approach on creating additional comp storage that isn't there today. I've always been the believer that you can have comp storage, but not naturally. You got to create it. And all the development that we've had in this town in the last 12, 13 years, there is hydraulically engineered, studied comp storage throughout this community. Let's take this building. Show me the comp storage. It's at the Park District. Future development along Northgate, future development across the street, not only are they going to have their own kind of retention ponds and stuff like that, but they're going to depend a lot on the Heritage Park comp storage. We approved earlier this year a huge pipe for capital improvements to tie into that for future development along Dundee Road. In the perfect world, if we lived in a town as big as Schaumburg or Naperville or something else, you know, we're less than 7.5 square miles. That's it. And it's nice to have ordinances where you can have 1 to 1.5 and all that kind of stuff. But I think we, in the last 10, 12 years, have been proactive with this stream bank stabilization program. For 30 years, nobody looked at. Watched neighbors lose property because of erosion along the creek along Valley Stream. We're putting in grants for phase 2, phase 3. I mean, to hear comments from people that we're endangering CRS ratings and all this other stuff where our staff has done their homework and there is no jeopardy of reducing our ratings or the discount to our residents is ludicrous. And again, I think we're doing something now that actually manages comp storage versus runoff. You look at the diversion channel, Trustee Herron, it's full. Look at the pond that's dug behind it, there's water holding it. Prior to that, there was nothing there but sunflowers. Where did the water go? Look at the airport. The airport flooded, but thank God there was a channel there and retention there, a comp storage area there that can hold water. Even though it flooded, the runways and everything else, it slowed down that process. Prior to that, what would have happened? I can remember 5 houses on McHenry Road, and a good rain would flood, and flood into the bank there, the Buffalo Creek, and flood like Valley Stream because the water had nowhere to go. It had no holding pattern. So to make an issue and do the scare tactics of what are you doing, what are you doing, what are you doing, you know, in the perfect world, yeah, 1 to 1.5 would be great, but it's not realistic. It really isn't.
Well, I wouldn't consider, oh, sorry, Mr. President.
No, I'm just, no, I understand your concerns. But,
I mean,
but the thing is, though, somebody back 25 years ago thought that would be a great idea.
Sure.
And 25 years ago, compared to now, is night and day.
And who says I'm voting no?
I'm not saying you're voting no. I'm making the comment that you're right. And I think what we're doing regarding stormwater management is putting money into a budget, recognizing the problems, coming up with a game plan, trying to fund that game plan to be even more proactive than the folks from 25, 30 years ago were. Because you know what? They talked a good story. They didn't do anything. I'll be very candid with you. Nothing. And you know what? Other than that, made things stringent for everybody. Not just residents, but businesses as well.
I'm just saying that we are doing the right things. We really are.
We really are.
And I just want to continue to move in that direction. And
I promise you, Trustee Hare, that's the only direction we need to move. All of us. And our staff gets it. And I commend them all for that because they've recognized the problems, they've weighed it out. Our Plan Commission did a great job with this. I mean, if people had major concerns, the room should have been filled for the Plan Commission. But they asked the right questions. They had their information. Our staff worked with them. Our staff worked with the other engineers. I mean, you had professionals working on this for a long, long time. And I read the facts and findings. And our commissioners, I applaud them. They asked the right questions, the concerns, as well as staff had. And then staff taking that extra step and checking out with the other agencies that back up the information that they received from the petitioner. So I think we are on the right track, and I think, you know what, and there's going to be others down the road. There's going to be stuff by that airport that's going to be coming for us. They're going to want variances on this one-to-one, and that's why I've asked staff to have the Plan Commission revisit Title 22, go over what's FEMA and the MWR regulations that are coming up in 2014, so we're not doing this every single month with every single thing that's going to get built. Again, Village Hall has off-site storage. Development to the north here and west of here are going to have off-site storage, including Kmart, if that ever gets developed. The town center. So that's all I have to say, but to put this fear of God into everybody, what are you guys doing, and you're going to flood us out, I mean, is ludicrous to me, because we've been proactive. We've had exceptional flooding, and we've had it back to back. But our staff, thank God we've done the things we did. Can you imagine if we hadn't been proactive in the last 10, 12 years with the things we had done, what kind of flooding we really would have had? It would have been a hell of a lot worse. I'm sorry, Trustee Vogel.
3 quick questions as a result of this conversation. Number 1, if we have all the answers, okay, and we did our homework and we know what the answers are, why are we doing the study? That's number 1. Number 2, what's the urgency of this? And number 3 is how long would, if we concentrated on this area, how long would the study take, if it's necessary?
You want to answer that, or?
Yeah, I can. When you ask, well, I think one of your questions is this area part of the proposed study?
Right.
So far, from the studies I've seen that the village has done, this area is really not part of the stormwater management study. This particular area doesn't flood very much. The areas of concentration for that stormwater study are areas that do flood more or have water problems.
All right, so in your opinion, it's not necessary to do a study of this area?
It really hasn't been part of previous studies that I've seen.
Okay.
For instance, the most important areas for us to study that have been part of it, for instance, the Burke study was Jackson Drive area. Jackson Drive and the areas to the west and to the east of it. Wheeling Road, in April, Wheeling Road was flooded and was cut off. It's an arterial road.
All right. Well, Mark, I guess if you're saying that it's not necessary to do a study in this area, that answers my other 2 questions.
I'm not saying it's not necessary. I'm saying that this is not. I don't believe in past studies and past reviews of problem areas in the village for flood. This was one of them.
Okay.
Because it hasn't been.
All right. Yeah, then let's say it is necessary to do the study here. Is there an urgency to get it done? And if so, how long would it take?
An urgency for this variation, or urgency for a study here?
Urgency for this variation.
Well, the petitioners here, they can talk to you about urgency. I mean, the village doesn't have urgency other than the fact that property owners have the right to ask for variations and ask for legislation. This property owners come to the village requesting a variation from code. We're here to analyze people's requests and answer questions for you
How long
guys.
would the study take if we decided that we wanted to hold off, table this until the study took place? Could this study be done quickly?
We sent out an RFP for a stormwater management study for the village, basically the entire village. We've so far received 6 responses back from that. We're right now doing analysis of those 6 responses to bring 2 or 3 for analysis and bring the village board for a suggestion as to who you might choose. So how long would that study take once they start? Probably 6 months. Wheeling is relatively complicated in terms of hydraulics. It's not a simple study to do. We have old storm sewer pipes, some of which are too small or maybe they're in bad shape. We have areas of the village that don't have stormwater management because back when say Dunhurst was developed, there were no regulations for it. So Wheeling is a relatively complicated study location.
Okay. And would that 6 months prohibit or stop something from going on? What are your short-term, long-term plans, Mr. Smith? If they went ahead and did this study to ease everybody's concerns and it took 6 months, what would that do to your?
We are in the process now of, we're under 30 units in Prairie Park, and our desires that we've talked about was to possibly continue to the west.
Right.
We actually have 3 contracts in December and 3 are pending. At that rate, within 5 months, we'll be sold out.
You're going to need lead time.
We kind of got caught in the market before on a last building that sat for 4 years.
All right.
And so there is to us, if we're going to move forward with continued construction and continue as the cells are there, we would have to jump into that possibly in the next 3 months on sales. So yes, there is a sense of urgency to us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. President, if I might.
Sure.
Related to this study, so we understand, this study is not just a general study about flooding and Wheeling. We know what Wheeling floods. The crux of this thing is to more or less prioritize all these areas that flood in town, because once we start the program and we start gathering funds to do these programs, we want to know what should be done first, and what areas are getting the most flooding, what areas are causing the most damage, what areas of concern are there. And to be honest with you, if this even made the list, it would probably be last, because there really is no flooding up there that affects any residents. So, Jackson Drive certainly would be high on the list, and other ones. The study is to prioritize, and then we have some issues on how the cost should be spread for this thing. When you consider how much land is being absorbing water and property, so that it's fair for everybody to be paying these taxes. So, but basically, this study isn't just a general study. We know it floods. Right now, what we're doing is trying to figure out what has to be done first and associated costs with it, so we can make the plan over the next so many years. This is how we're going to get all these things fixed, and then start going out and getting some help from the governments. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Trustee Lane.
Thank you. Doesn't MWRD weigh in on something like this pretty heavily?
No, they don't, because the village has its own floodplain code, and we make the decisions relative to floodplains in the village.
Okay. And as you said before, if it was unincorporated, it wouldn't require any.
I don't believe so. John, is that correct?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Brady, second by Trustee Hein. Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
No.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
No.
Trustee Heer?
No.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyris?
Yes. 13I.
13,
ordinances.
Ordinance and resolution regarding acquisition of Ford WD backhoe loader.
Thank you.
Number 1 is ordinance authorizing the sale of personal property owned by the Village of Wheeling And 2 is a resolution awarding a bid for the purchase of one new 4WD backhoe loader from West Side Tractor of Wakanda, Illinois.
Thank you. Director Stavros.
Thank you, President Argyros. This ordinance is twofold. This is for replacement of a loader or a backhoe, and actually we have 2 backhoes that were replaced, trading in for it. One was, as the memo states, was kept. It was an audit backhoe. We kept it because we couldn't get parts for the one that we had bought in '97. We were having problems getting parts for it, so we kept the '94 one that had been replaced, and we just kept it on as a backup. Since then, they have both become bothersome to us, and this was served. We did go out and seek manufacturers. We searched the area for towns around us that had new backhoes, and John Deere seemed to be the prevailing supplier, which is American-made. Kind of maybe learned our lesson with the JCPs. And we demoed it when we put the water main in extension over here at Heritage Park this summer, and it performed excellent, far above our expectations. Superintendent Spratt wrote the specifications. We sent it out for bid. We had one bidder. We did put in there an option for the trade-ins, and they gave us a trade-in value of each one. One was for $14,000, one was for $17,000, which the initial bid for the tractor was $122,000, with the 2 bids brought the tractor down to $91,000. In order to purchase the tractor under the $91,000, we'd have to pass the first ordinance for the disposal of surplus equipment. That would be the first ordinance.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger, you got a question?
Yes, I do. And a comment. Superintendent Spratt, your memo was awesome, because I understood it. And you mentioned, though, auxiliary tools like concrete breakers and clam buckets, and that our current equipment couldn't operate those tools. Do we own those auxiliary tools already, or would we be buying them in the future to use on our new backhoe?
No, the concrete breaker is interchangeable with the backhoes. The hydraulics, it'll be set up where it's retrofitted to handle that. Down the line, we're looking at possibly maybe some clamshells for channel cleaning, but that's down the line. We want to get the backhoe and get it in operation and see what exactly additional tools we might want down the road. But at this point, the auxiliary tools we have will fit the machine.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anybody else? Entertain a motion?
So move.
Second.
This is on 13I1. Motion by Trustee
Here and now second.
Pierre, second by Trustee Lang.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, 13I2. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Vogel, second by Trustee Kruger. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Heer?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. 13J.
Discussion regarding concept review of proposed restaurant uses on north outlet of Prairie Crossing Shopping Center.
Thank you. Director Janik.
This concerns the western outlet, specifically the one that is directly north of the entrance. The village board, when the western was developed, the village board approved a set of requirements for restaurants at the Westin, and it specifically, in some ways, regarded the restaurants that are proposed, that is a Subway and a Dunkin' Donuts, as restaurants that would not be able to be located at this location. The petitioner who is the owner of the property is requesting consideration by the village board in concept relative to possibly allowing these restaurants to be located at this location.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Question.
Question, Trustee Lang?
So is the petitioner here?
I'm representing him. He's not a state owner, but my name's Doug Renner.
Doug, why don't you come on up to the podium, please? State your name for the record.
Name's Doug Renner. I'm with Baum Realty Group, representing ownership who is not a state owner.
Thank you.
So these are not your typical Dunkin' Donuts and Subway restaurants. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
That's what we're proposing, and we do have representative from Dunkin' Donuts here, and I believe Subway as well, to speak on it further. But they're more of a modern look. They're a modern restaurant. Like I said, they can speak more on it. We're trying to keep a look that's, consistent with the rest of the restaurants that are in the Westin and in and around, and keep it high quality, for lack of better terms.
And if and you may not be able to answer this, but what about signage and actual names for the restaurants as well? It's not going to be considered or called a Subway. It has another.
Well, there's other names to it, and Dunkin' Donuts has a name to it, which is Jazz Brew. Subway, I'm not wholly.
Tuscan Market. Tuscan Market.
Is that yeah?
For Subway,
I believe
yeah.
so. Yeah. So, sorry, I don't walked up here without my notes, but again, the tenants could speak more on it. These are tenants that are in a number of this owner's shopping centers, and he's worked well with them, and they've been great tenants for him in the past, and we see both of them of quality that can add to the shopping center. Right now, we have close to 30,000 square feet of fine dining restaurants. What we don't have is the ability for, and this is in particular for the Westin customers, is a place to have a coffee, sit down, open up the laptop, relax a little bit, grab a quick sandwich, quick meal. Everything is sit down, a little more expensive, and not easily on the go. And we think that this strip center, this shopping center, can provide that with these two tenants.
Thank you. Can the restaurant representatives maybe talk to their plan a little bit more, just to get a better idea? As opposed, talk about signage, how it will be different.
I'm Patrick Bucaro. I represent Subway. The signage would be pretty much the standard Subway signage that you do see. Our decor, the pictures, it's called the new Metro decor. It is a lot more upscale than a normal Subway that you would see. There's, I think, 17 in the Chicagoland area right now. They're going in towns like Evanston, Northbrook, downtown, the Loop, everywhere. All of our new Subways pretty much look like this. But as you're referring to, the name would still be Subway.
Okay, not, I read something Tuscan Market, that's.
No,
am
it would still be
incorrect
Subway.
on that? Okay. If it was called Tuscan Market by Subway, maybe it would, it's a little more intriguing. I don't know I don't know how that same signage and all that would portray a more upscale or a nicer interior type place.
Our exterior signage is pretty basic to what our Subway's signs that you see everywhere now, but it is the interior that is the big difference.
How do you draw someone into there as opposed to any other Subway? I mean, I would think you'd do it through some kind of signage or perhaps a name addition to it, something that steps it up a bit.
I don't really have a clear answer for that. Besides, if you were to look into the store from the outside, you would see that it is drastically different from what a typical Subway looks like. Our sign our logo is our sign, so that really won't change.
Okay. Is there any thought of, through the corporation changing not changing the name, of course, but maybe adding to it?
That hasn't been discussed on my end, so I really don't have an answer
Okay,
for that.
well, I'll wait till the other board members feel about it.
Let me go to Director Melanti, because I know you've done a lot of research on this.
Thank you, President Argyros. I met with the owners of the investor in the shopping center in May at the ICSC Shopping Center Convention in Las Vegas. They've put a lot of time and effort into purchasing this property, redeveloping it. They brought Spears, Bourbon, and Burgers coming in. When I met with Subway, they talked about the Tuscan Market concept, that it was not going to be called Tuscan Market, but this was going to be their upscale concept with enhanced seating, enhanced aesthetics, tables, but it was going to be a Subway. But we were trying to bring in a high-quality concept from Subway rather than the typical Subway prototype. And we are also working with Dunkin' Donuts with their Jazz Brew concept, which tries to enhance the length of stay. People open their computers, work on the wireless internet, have coffee and donuts and so forth. So we are getting the best of these two concepts here in Wheeling at the gateway to the Westin Hotel, where if you've ever traveled and you're alone and you can't go out to dinner with somebody, I mean, these are the kinds of facilities where you can get a sandwich, you can go open your computer and so forth. And unfortunately, the owner of the shopping center couldn't be here tonight, but they're making a big investment in Wheeling. And this property has been vacant and has experienced chronic vacancy even during the height of the retail boom. And so I think this is two very solid end users that will take this space and generate traffic to this location. Thank you.
I'd just like to add, if anybody would be interested in seeing what the new Subway looks like, we just had a new one put up in Arlington Heights. It's less than half a mile south of the railroad tracks, Northwest Highway on Arlington Heights Road. It only opened, I think, a month ago. So that's the direction we're taking.
Okay.
Right, thank you.
Anybody else? Trustee here? Hein?
One of the things that we have to keep in mind is the fact that the Westin Hotel has got a lot of rooms, and they have to keep those rooms full. And they cater to all different types of people. All the people that stay at the Westin Hotel are not going to go to Buca or to Serenello's for a nice dinner. There's a lot of people there that are going to be using this type of venue to grab a quick cup of coffee, a good sandwich, and be on their way. So I think it's a good fit because of the fact that we do have some great restaurants in the complex itself, and we have some great restaurants down Milwaukee Avenue. So I don't look at it as being another Subway. I look at it as a venue to help the Westin Hotel fill rooms. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Brady?
You know, the site plan we saw shows the Dunkin' Donuts, but it doesn't show where the Subway is going.
We're proposed tenants.
The Dunkin' Donuts is on the end, where the cars are lined up as a drive-through. The Subway would be directly to the south.
Okay. In other words, where it says proposed tenant?
That's correct.
Okay. I see. Yeah, you know, if we weren't so persnippety, we would have had a Caribou's in here for about 5 years now, but we thought we wanted better, but it isn't working, so I think this is just fine.
Einstein.
Trustee Kruger, anything?
No, I actually like the concept and in that location. And I don't, like Trustee Hein, I don't look at it as yet another Subway. I think we've got both kinds of Subways and both kinds of Dunkin' Donuts. I would like to be able to say that, so showcasing those corporations' marketing.
Trustee here?
Yeah, I like it. It brings variety to that area. I think it'll work well.
Trustee Vogel?
Definitely like it. I would like, I think if they could put those new names up there, that would be great, but I understand corporate thinking.
You don't know what they are.
Yeah, I definitely think it's a good fit there.
Okay.
And it's something that's needed.
Yeah, I like it as well. I'm just going to, for the record, just ask for a consensus so this conceptual plan can move forward with the idea that these two uses are going to go to that site. Anyone add to that?
I just want to say that currently both of these uses are on the prohibited list. So what we would do, if there's a general consensus to move forward, we would bring back to you formal legislation that would approve both of these uses on that site plan.
And it still would have to go before the plan.
Of course.
The Plan Commission.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's do a roll call on the consensus. Yes or no?
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes, unanimous. Good luck, guys. Okay, 13K.
Discussion regarding jurisdictional transfer of Wolf Road.
Okay, I'm going to go to Manager Sfondilis on this.
Thank you. Our last item this evening is a follow-up to something we've been talking about for quite some time, which was a request from the county for a JT, which stands for jurisdictional transfer, of a portion of Wolf Road from Manchester north. As you all know, there was a previous JT, Manchester south to Hintz Road previously, so the Village of Wheeling is already responsible for that portion of Wolf Road. At our last discussion, we detailed a number of options for the village in order to create a response back to the county. We did that. We got a response back from the county, and tonight we just wanted to kind of go over the highlights of the project so that the board understands, for lack of a better term, what you're buying by approving the JT. There are a couple of memos included in your packet that try to give those bullet points of what's happening, and the major one is that we had asked the county to install a concrete roadway as opposed to an asphalt road. So the road would be widened from a 2-lane asphalt road to a 3-lane concrete roadway. Concrete roads definitely last longer. They're a much more durable material, and they fit in with the standard of the rest of the road. The project also includes the modernization of 2 signals at Dundee Road, new roadway lighting standards, a repair of existing 5-foot sidewalk and installation of an 8-foot wide sidewalk. The one item that we discussed at the last meeting, which actually was referenced earlier, was the idea of the burial of the overhead power lines. The board at that time, there was a cost of $4 million. The board at that time did not want to pursue the only option, which was a rider. It's called a rider, and it goes through ComEd, and it would be absorbed by all utility customers through ComEd. That is an exorbitant expense, and the board at the time, and I will ask again if you concur, did not want to move forward with burial of those power lines. We did ask in our last response to the county if they would consider pitching in for the burial of those lines, and as expected, they said no. The screen in front of you shows how the cost is spread out and where some of the money is going to come from. And at the bottom shows, again, a little bit of the highlights of what the project would entail. What we're asking you tonight is if the board concurs with the package as you see it, we would respond to the county for formal legislation to get the JT approved on their end, and then back here for formalization through the village board. Director Janik, did I miss anything in the description?
No, except I just wouldn't mind pointing out financially what the situation is for the village. The first slide shows the 3-lane road. Right now it's a 2-lane cross-section with no paved shoulders, no curb. Although this is a sort of a rural look, this gives you an idea. It's going to be a 3-lane cross-section with curbing on both sides. The ditches will be filled in. Storm sewer will be included on both sides of the road. This This photograph shows what's an 8-foot walk just past the parkway. As the manager mentioned, there are 8-foot and 5-foot sidewalks included as part of this design. The 8-foot sidewalk will shift. It'll be on the west side of Wolf Road, north of Dundee, and then it will shift to the east side of Wolf Road, south of Dundee. And that's because of what our opinion is, the traffic, particularly children going to school. The second slide here just gives you an indication. Shows the village and state and federal responsibility for costs. The total project is approximately $15 million. The village share, as per our memos, as per our negotiations so far, the village responsibility would be about approximately 5.35% of the total cost. Just gives you an idea of what the roadway construction cost is, about $10 million, design 1.3, and then some of the upgrades. Just want to point that out.
Mark, let me ask you, when do you think this will happen?
We would like to think that if we go back to the state of Illinois and they agree with the proposal as it is, they will start doing more serious design work. We are hoping that some sort of movement would happen in 2015. I believe 2014 will be used for design as well as a bidding that would go into 2015, and possibly late summer 2015 we would see some progress on the roadway.
We have been told that this remains on their budget list for the next 3 years. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. President?
Trustee here?
Then in the meantime, what are we going to do with Wolf Road south of Dundee once this construction project's finished at the Park District? Who's going to maintain that road and bring it up to some sort of standards, because it's terrible now. It's going to only get worse.
Currently, it's a state road. Once the construction finishes at Heritage Park next year, hopefully early summer, we will try to get the state of Illinois to improve the road to more or less extent. I suspect that if a deal is struck between the village and state of Illinois relative to the jurisdictional transfer, there probably won't be a lot of work performed on the roadway. Just the work that would be performed would be just keep it at a minimal level in expectation of the substantial work that you see on this chart.
But if we enter into this agreement, I would like you to keep the heat on them too, because I certainly wouldn't want this thing being pushed another year back, and all they're doing is doing their little patchwork out there. That's my suggestion.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Question.
Trustee Lang?
Well, first of all, I'm good with this as proposed. I know you're going to ask that, but when will we need to start saving for rebuilding down the road?
We're already accounting for it in the CIP, but the 5% would replace an annual street project. So it's not a huge encumbrance. We would just start planning for it now.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Hittleman, did you get your answers? Yeah, me too. Thank you. All right, Trustee Brady, one more thing.
We're end up paying 5.something% of this year. We can't get no help on burying the power lines from anybody, though.
No. We've talked to ComEd, we've talked to the state. No one really sees it as a priority. They consider it an aesthetic improvement for which they expect the municipalities to pay if that's what the municipality wants.
They have been giving us a snow job for so long about that, yet burying the power lines does have an advantage. Just go out to Naperville and see how many power outages they have because all their lines are buried. They don't have any to speak of. It would be nice to get them underground, but not at these kind of dollars.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for a consensus as presented, yes or no, to give staff direction to move forward with this.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes, thank you. Okay, official communication. I'm going to start with Trustee Krueger.
Why do you start with me?
Why not?
First, happy holidays to everybody. I am looking forward to a very exciting 2014 because 2013 just wasn't really crazy enough for me. But it's been a pleasure for 2013. Looking forward to a new year. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee Hein?
Nothing this evening, thank you.
Not even happy holidays for me?
Humbug.
Scrooge?
We're going to do that later.
Okay.
Just watch
Trustee
the
Hare?
video. Ebenezer.
He certainly looks like him.
Play the video.
I had that question about Commonwealth Edison, and I was going to defer it over to the village manager, but I believe those questions were answered by
Chief.
the chief.
And we do have a meeting this week, and we will be sure to get an answer from them and remind them of the importance of them keeping their system maintained, because not only were a number of residents impacted by it, but a number of our industrial customers as well, and that certainly has a direct impact on their ability to operate.
And maybe in the future, if we haven't done it already, it's like, I agree with what the chief's saying. People normally in an emergency situation are going to call the police or the fire and say, my electricity's out, because they're nervous. Is maybe prior to an electrical outage that you put it on the website or even in newsletters and continuously tell people, this is what you call, this is the number you call. Educate, educate, educate's the way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Lang?
I just want to say, nice job, Mr. Stavros, on the snow removal.
Yes, thank you.
Excellent job. And I had a couple people comment on it, a couple neighbors as well, and so I wanted to pass that along, that everyone was happy with the snow removal, and just happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you. Trustee Vogel?
Yeah, just happy holidays to everybody, and I hope Mr. Hein has a better day tomorrow.
Call Joan and find out. Trustee Brady?
Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever your preferences are, and I'm looking forward to a very, very good year coming up. I think it's going to be exciting. I think we're moving in the right direction, and stick around. A lot of things are going to be happening. Thank you.
Clerk Simpson?
Just Merry Christmas to everybody and a good year next year.
Manager Svandelis?
I have nothing other than a Merry Christmas as well.
I have a couple things I want to go over real quick. I like the boards. Our next meeting, by the way, is until January 6th. This will be the last meeting of 2013 after a pretty busy year. And I'd like to have the board take a couple minutes and possibly send me an email by the end of the year. What we're trying to do is I'm going to meet with Manager Svandelis. The first quarter of 2014, want to have some real productive workshops regarding some items that were talked about in the past. Look at your notes. You know, we get sidetracked sometimes on things that are more important to take care of right away, and we lose sight of some of the things that we had talked about in the past. So what I like to do, if I can get a list from each trustee, whether it's something or not, just say, Dean, I don't have anything, or Dean, I do have something. We did talk about this a year or two ago. Let's try to schedule it for a workshop. And what the first quarter of 2014, the manager and I will come up with a schedule to follow through on priorities, things that we have talked about, and try to get that done for the first quarter of 2014. So I need your help on that, guys. I got a list of stuff. I know everybody remembers things later on, and we need to get it together so we can move forward with that. Also like to take special recognition to the Historical Society. I was supposed to be there Tuesday. Unfortunately, I hurt myself. And getting straight now. But you know what? From the folks of the 40-plus year history of this Historical Society with the Lollipop Lane, kudos to you. Kudos to the society, to the Park District for making that area such a pretty beautiful thing. And I had some neighbors I had visited. They were in awe. And on behalf of myself and the board and our staff, we thank all you guys for your hard work. If you want to make a comment on that.
We had over 1,500 people in the nine-day period, and it's great when they bring the 1-month-old and babies there, and people who have come back and back year after year. They've been there when they were children, and now they bring their children. So it gets to be very special.
Right. And it was also nice to see in the journal Topics that they had a nice photo op there and a good press release regarding the Historical Society, and it's nice to see good positive news like that. Also, just a quick, 2 weeks ago, we had conditionally approved an agreement with our partners with the intergovernment agreement with Prospect Heights. And I'm going to refer to, just to give you a follow-up on that, because we got a long period of time before we meet again, with Attorney Ferrillo, just to give us an update on that.
Certainly, you'll recall that on December 2nd, we approved a settlement subject to language being worked out in the IGA related to revenue sharing. The sticking point related not to sales tax, but use tax, and the difficulty in administering use tax vis-a-vis the Illinois Department of Revenue. Through multiple discussions with Prospect Heights, we've come to the conclusion that use tax will not be included in the definition of revenue sharing. It's simply not a workable solution. Prospect Heights is in agreement with that. They're in the process of amending the draft agreements and the draft IGA to get back to the village for signature. So that's a great development. I think the revised IGA will be much easier to work with and administer going into the future. So everybody cooperated and studied the issue, and I think reached really the most practical conclusion. So that's it.
Thank you, Jim. Sure. Again, it's been a transition year for a lot of us here, and I just want to take the opportunity to thank everybody here on the board. We've done a lot the last 6-7 months, and staff has got on board. We're working together. I feel the team mentality here. We're accomplishing things. We're tackling some obstacles and resolving major issues like avoiding lawsuits and working out our partnerships with our partners at the airport and stuff. This is all good stuff. It's going to come back to be a positive for this community and for our partnerships in the future. And again, I thank not just the department heads that are here, but your staff, because you see more smiles lately. You see people getting excited about what we're doing. I mean, people comment regarding just Christmas lights throughout the community, that we take the effort to do that, and people appreciate that. Not just from Wheeling, from other parts of the area here. So I thank John and his staff for that, and I'm looking forward to 2014. You know, we've got a lot of things on the burner here, and I think we got a great team with our economic development team. They're doing some great things. I know Sherry over there, the seniors are getting it all together over there. The fire department, police department, CD, Public Works, as always. You guys are there. And looking forward to 2014. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas and a prosperous and happy New Year for 14. We've taken the liberty to have a little refreshments and invite everybody to have a little holiday cheer out in the quarter there. And at this point, I'll ask for the motion to approve the bills for November 28, 2013 through December 11, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Trustee Hare, second by Trustee Vogel. Oh, I'm sorry. Before I take roll call on that?
Keep going.
Let's do roll call. Trustee Hine has something to say.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Here?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Juris?
Yes. Trustee Hine, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You were going quite fast there with that Frillo's dissertation over there. What Mr. Frillo was talking about was the agreement with the airport has been going on for an awful long time. And the airport is a big plus for the village of Wheeling and the city of Prospect Heights. But I also want to give a little bit of recognition to our president, Dean Igers, because he brought valuable information being a member of that particular board for many, many years. And I know personally that he did a lot of lobbying to get the negotiations going and keep it on track. And I think he did an excellent job, along with the staff, and our attorneys did a great job. And it's put to rest. Now we can go forward and continue on with a wonderful asset to the village of Wheeling, that being that airport. And let me just finish one more thing. There was a lot of dissertation about the floodplain regulations and everything, and perhaps maybe at this time we should be directing the Planning Commission to open up Title 22 to look at this and come up with an evaluation of it and a study on it to see what's happening with Title 22. It hasn't been done for a while.
Manager Fondel's mentioned something this afternoon. He had a staff meeting about that, and I believe in January they're going to try to get that to the Plan Commission for review.
Yep. That's it. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Hey, he said it.
Thank you. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by trustee Brady, second by trustee Hare. Roll call, please.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Hein?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Hare?
Yes.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
President Argyros?
Yes. Join us in the hallway, folks. Thank you.
On the rock.